Welcome. This video is going to walk you through a quick tutorial on setting up the lab for the virtual router. Fortunately, this image doesn't have the firewall, contact-based firewall in it, but it's good enough for a router. It can get some different features, and perhaps at some point in the future we can upgrade it to have those features. But here's how you install it. I'm using VMware Fusion again. You can use Workstation or Player. I go File, Import. I'm going to choose the file that I have on my desktop there, and it is the virtual router OVA. OVA is a zipped up OVF folder. I hit continue, and you're going to want to select the smallest available router here to save resources, and you can see how it goes up in CPU and gigs as the size increases. We just want the minimal one. I go next. You're going to see a lovely wizard here that doesn't do you any good. So just ignore these. If you were deploying this on a real ESXi platform, the deployment mechanism would actually work, but we're just going to skip over those because the script fails anyway. Give it a name, save it, and we're going to let it import. Now, it does come up with 3 interfaces. You can add more if you need them. And I'm going to hit finish, and it will launch. And this one does take a couple times to reboot, or at least one time to reboot. As it builds the first time, you'll see a bunch of errors. It will boot in 8 seconds and pretty much do its own thing and come to a router greater than prompt. So not much to do on this other than to let it go through the process. I'll show you a couple things on changing the licensing structure. Again, you're on evaluation, so the only thing we don't have is the CBAC firewall and zone-based firewall stuff, so you can use Packettracer for that. This is a much longer process to wait for than the ASA was, so I'm going to pause it, and we'll come back and let it catch up to us. Note it's doing a bunch of copying and installing. For example, it's installing grub there, copying the super package, the actual bin file in. And there's a way we could replace that bin file with a different file with the feature set of the firewall at some point. I'll test that later on and post that file for you. Again, I'm going to pause it to keep it short. Oh, actually, it looks like it's rebooting. So when it does load correctly, you'll see this press any key to continue. Trust me, don't do anything. Just let it go. It'll default to what's called packages.conf. That's the version that you want to run. The other is a golden image, means it's clean. So if you just let it go and boot on its own, it will do everything for you. About 3.5 minutes, we get to a prompt here. I'm going to minimize this out of the way, and it wants us to go through initial configuration. I'm going to say no. When you hit enter and it pauses, don't worry about it. It takes a second here to finish what it needs to do. It tells you the power on script did not run successfully. That's okay. We just hit OK on that. I've had that happen before. I give it a couple enter keys. I type EN for enable mode, and I'm right in enable mode. I go to config team mode, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to change the license. You're going to go to license boot level premium. That'll give you the most features this set has. You say yes to accept them. You have 60 days now for, and then you have to end it, and you have to do a write mem, and then reload, and it will reboot into that platform. Our interfaces all roll by. When they roll by, that's about the time you can give it a couple enters and hit enter, and you're in the router mode. I'll hit EN, hit enter. I'm in router configuration mode. I'll show version. You can see this is a 3.01 standard support release, so we have certain types of features. We are on a premium license. So what I can do here is just to show you that you can do the same thing we did with the ASA. If I do show int, and I see, for example, this first interface is administratively down, but its MAC address is 22 Delta 6, and I go into my virtual machine and I look at one of these, I can actually see that this and correlate this interface to this interface. So I can map my networks out appropriately that way. And I can also use those private networks internally. So what we're going to do real quick is we're going to do this. We're going to go config T. We're going to go through and set up an IP address, same IP address used in the last lab, on this router, and then we're going to enable it so I can get to it through SSH. So for that to work, the first thing we need to do is, I want to just do the do show IP int brief, and you can see I'm going to use int gig1. I'm going to do description inside. I'm just going to call it that. IP address 192.168.50.51 in the subnet mask. I do apologize about the typing. It's actually real quiet in my studio, but I don't have my soundproofing up, so for some reason it echoes into the microphone. So it sounds really loud, but it's really not that loud here. So IP address, I'm going to do a no shut. And when I do a no shut, if I wait a couple seconds, I can I'll actually do a do write, and that'll just actually save it. You can see the line protocol came up. Now I'm going to do a do ping 192.168.250.5, which is my firewall. First one will time out for the ARP. This other four will work, and we're talking on the network already. So to set up SSH standard formats apply, we do a host name. We'll call this R1. We do an IP domain name, just demo.com.lab local. Let's do that, demo.local. We'll do a crypto key generate RSA mod 2048. And we shall also make a username, user admin, let's do the simple ones, privilege 15, password, I'll use the one you can decrypt pretty easily, Cisco $1. And then we'll do, if I do a show run pipe begin VTY, that would be a do show run because I'm in config mode. You can see we have VTY 0, 1, 2, and 4. So that's 0 through 4. So I'm going to do a line VTY 0, 4, include all of them. I'm going to do transport input SSH. So we're running SSH and not telnet. Login local. And that should be it. So I can end that and write it. And this is like being on the console. So what I'm going to do is move this out of the way. I'm going to open an application I have for, you can use whatever one you want, for SSH. And I will do a quick connect. And I'm going to put in my IP address there, secure shell, secure shell. And I will make my username admin and connect. And we got a prompt for the password because I did not include that, Cisco $1. And you can see we're at the router. So there you have it. It's connected, it's up and running. It's a little bit simpler than the ASA, but it doesn't have the firewall feature set yet. We'll figure out how to add that later on. Hope you enjoyed watching the video and hope it helps you out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.